Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome on everyone. This video, a fairly simple basic video where I finished turn this walnut bowl that I rough turned out in August 2018, so that's just over 2 years ago. And if you watch the whole video, I'll have a talk at the end about how I got on. I'm sure I did a video on these at some point. I just found this on my top shelf to finish off. This was a piece of wood I rough turned on 11th of August 2018, so it's been over 2 years. And I believe it may have sat in a box for maybe a few months or a year, and then I turfed it out. It's certainly distorted. I don't know how well it shows on the camera there, but it's certainly narrow this way compared to that way. And certainly because we've got the piff there, that's where hopefully you can see it's risen where the piff is on both ends, so it will be taken down on there as well. The weight on this, when I've rough turned at 845 grams, I've just put it on my scales and it's around about 560. Now I don't really have much of a mark, which is a bit annoying for where I had the centre on the bottom there. Hopefully it'll be as a good guide. So what I'm planning to do first of all is I've got a piece of waste wood on here, I'm going to put on there, bring up the live centre, just redo the tenon on the bottom there. Because this is no longer such a big weight and such a big piece from when I originally turned it, where I had my larger jaws on there, I'm going to take it down to my standard C jaws, what I've got on the chuck here. Now I've got this lined up as hopefully as central as I possibly can here. It seems nice and parallel that way as much as it's going to be. And hopefully you can just see there the wobble that's on there. That's how much it has distorted, which is one of the reasons as well why you leave fairly thick walls. What I have done here, hopefully you can see this pencil line on here. That's where I need to take the tenon down to size wise. So I'm going to use a combination, probably spindle gouge and the skew to do the angle, to take that down first of all to the size, and then just take off some of the thickness, because otherwise it's going to bottom out. I'm quite happy with the shape I've got here now, so I'm just going to sand this up off camera. I've just sort of trued up the top partially, especially on the outside here, of how far I want to take it down, and I've still got traces of the piff in there. I just think it really gives this lovely pattern, and that's on both sides. So we've got some darker colour wood this side with a darker sort of marks going through it. Finish wise, I think I'm going to go for an oil finish on this of some form, so I don't have to worry about trying to wax this or anything like that on the outside. When I've finished everything off, I'll just remount this on my Longworth chuck so that I can then just take off the tenon. This has now been sanded from 80 right the way up to 600 grit. Hopefully you can see how much this has gone out of shape from what I've taken up. So the outside is now true. Got a nice thick wall there and a thin wall there. So I now go ahead and do the inside. That's the inside now all turned, and off camera I will just go and sand all that up, ready so that I can then turn this around on the Longworth chuck to take off the bottom. This has now been sanded to 600 inside and out, right through the grits, and it's come up really, really nice. Does take a little bit of sanding to make sure you get out all the sander marks in there as well, and any possible tool marks. To take the base off, I've got my Longworth chuck on, and these can be a bit of a pain for when you put your piece on and tighten them up, because these all wobble a little bit. This might slightly be different sizes. Getting that central sometimes to run like that sometimes can be a bit out. And also, if you're worried about marking the bottom on this surface here, well, I'll just put in a bit of kitchen roll in first of all. But because I'm fortunate I've still got this centre point on the bottom here, I can bring up the tailstock just to hold it in place there. I can then tighten these down, and the way you need to do these is sort of do it every 3, so get it in hopefully what should be nice and tight, then go on 1, 2, 3 and do that all the way round. One, 2, 3 until you've done all 8 of these up. If you're interested on making one of these, I do have a video on this being made. Slightly different to what other people have done, because I can also mount this in my tailstock, so that should now be fully lined up. And low speed on these has to be right down. You can only really run these at about 500 RPM. So if I switch the low speed right off at the moment, so even now it's probably got a slight bit off center. Got that about 550. And all I want to do now is just take this tenon off and just slightly concave the base a bit, so that when it sits on something flat, it's always going to be sat on this outside rim, and then I can get that all sanded up as well. I've just done my pyrography on the bottom there, put my name on, date, and this is actually Walnut. Now I've decided on lemon oil. This is the Chestnut product. It's actually oil from lemongrass, not lemon the fruit, but it does smell very lemony. And it doesn't come up with a shine or anything like that. It's more of a luster. And I suspect because this is so dry, it will really soak the wood in. I've got a little bit of tear out in here. Not much, but hopefully you'll be able to see what happens with this as we apply it. And I found the easiest way is to use a brush. It just seems to get a better covering on here. I find that if you use a cloth, which you certainly can do, is that you're constantly topping it up, because you don't want to put too much on to start with, so that you just saturate one area. A brush like this, I mean a bigger brush would probably work better, but obviously this is ideal for me because it fits inside the tin. I mean that comes up looking amazing. So that's just had one coat now. I think the instructions on this are normally apply your coat, leave it about 20 minutes, wipe any excess off, but this is drying so quickly, it's just literally drawing into all the wood because it's so dry. So I'll let this cure properly, and over the next probably 2 days it will at least have another 2 more coats on there. This I've just left overnight from the soaking of the lemon oil, so it's had what, 12-18 hours I suppose, and all I've done is I've just rubbed it back with a bit of this Web, and I would suggest, if you haven't got any of these, get them. They are absolutely brilliant, because it's, the gold one here is equivalent of about 1,000 grit. If you use the white one, it's sort of not really any grit whatsoever, so it's sort of more of a like a polishing type cloth as well. And I'm going to give this probably another couple of coats during the next couple of days at least, and whether I do anything else, I'm not sure. I've got to say that I was surprised when I found this on my top shelf that I'd rough turned this back out in August 2018, which is over 2 years ago. And I mean, initially when I picked it up, I thought it was a bit of oak that I'd got from the local sawmill, but in actual fact this is wood that my uncle gave me probably 3 or so years ago. Before I did the actual pyrography bit on the bottom, I actually had to go and look on my YouTube channel to see the video on when I did these. I actually did 4 wet turned walnut bowls. 2 of them were to finish shape. 1 of them I actually totally sanded off and finished and everything, and that's probably gone in the house. The other one I think I've still got on my top shelf waiting to be sanded up and just turned off the bottom at some point. I've got to say, I really do like the markings and colourings in this. Walnuts that I often think of and certainly usually buy is all this really dark colour, so it's nice to have the different colours in it. Now I do have the sort of like the remnants of the pith on either side there, and if you'd noticed at the beginning of the video when I shoe this, it actually sort of extended where the pith was, so it actually gone higher there, because I just think it adds to the whole piece, especially all these radial lines running all around here, which all start off at this point here. Now it's a very basic shape, and I've got to say it's a shape I really like. It's really almost a bit like your cereal bowl. So if you've got any questions or comments on this, then certainly do leave comments below. Thanks a lot for watching.